Welcome to Podcasting in the Classroom, a short mini-series from One Stop Podcasts, hosted by Craig Burgess. Across this series, we explore how podcasting can support communication, confidence, student voice, and meaningful learning in schools. Created for school leaders, teachers, curriculum leads, and educators, the series is designed to help you see where podcasting fits, why it matters, and how it can be used in a purposeful and practical way across school life. In this first episode, we're starting with a foundational question. Why does podcasting belong in the classroom at all? For some, podcasting may still feel closely linked to media, content creation, or digital culture, rather than to everyday teaching and learning. It can bring to mind professional studios, public platforms, and a world of production that feels quite distant from the reality of school life. Yet, when we look more closely, podcasting connects directly with some of the things schools already care deeply about. Communication, confidence, collaboration, reflection, purposeful engagement with ideas. That is why its value in education can be far more immediate and far more grounded than people sometimes assume. When used well, podcasting in education is not simply about making audio. It's not about turning every pupil into a presenter, and it is not about asking schools to become production environments. It is about creating a structure through which pupils can think more carefully, speak more clearly, listen more attentively, and engage more actively with ideas. It gives communication a shape, a purpose, and an outcome. And when that happens, something genuinely powerful begins to emerge. At the heart of education is communication. Pupils are constantly being asked to absorb information, ask questions, explain themselves, interpret meaning, respond to others, reflect on their learning, and work together. Even when the final outcome is written, so much of the learning journey still depends on how well a pupil can process, articulate, and develop ideas. Yet, for all its importance, communication is not something every young person finds easy. Confidence in speaking does not simply appear on its own. Clear expression does not always come naturally. The ability to organise thoughts, explain a viewpoint, listen carefully, and contribute meaningfully often needs time, support, and repeated opportunity. That is one of the reasons podcasting can be so valuable in schools. It creates those opportunities in a way that feels purposeful rather than forced. It gives pupils a reason to shape what they want to say. It asks them to think about clarity, structure, tone, and audience. It helps speaking and listening move beyond something that happens only in passing. Instead, they become something pupils are building towards with real intention. One of the most important shifts podcasting creates is the presence of audience. Even a small audience changes the nature of a task. When pupils know they are creating something that will actually be heard, whether by classmates, teachers, parents, or the wider school community, they often begin to approach communication differently. They think more carefully about what they mean. They become more aware of how their ideas are organised. They begin to consider whether what they are saying will make sense to someone else. Their words begin to matter in a different way. That shift is subtle but powerful. So much classroom talk can feel temporary. A pupil answers a question, contributes a thought, and then the moment passes. Podcasting asks for something more deliberate. It asks pupils to shape communication into a form, to make something, to think not just about what they believe, but about how they want to express it. And that process often leads to more reflection, more ownership, and more care. This is why it helps to think of podcasting not as a trend, and not even as a creative extra, but as a vehicle for purposeful communication. When stripped back, podcasting often involves exactly the kinds of learning behaviours schools are already trying to support. Planning, discussion, listening, questioning, explaining, summarising, reflecting, collaborating, structuring ideas, speaking with intent. These are not side benefits. They are central to educational experiences. Podcasting simply brings them together in a form that feels coherent, engaging, and real. And that sense of realness matters. One of the reasons pupils often respond so positively to podcasting is that it feels like a genuine act of communication rather than a purely school-based exercise. There is something motivating about creating work in a recognisable form that exists beyond the worksheet or the page. Pupils can hear the result, they can reflect on it, they can improve it, they can feel proud of it. That sense of making something real can increase engagement in ways that more traditional tasks do not always achieve on their own. Of course, the educational value of podcasting does not begin at the point of recording. In many ways, it begins much earlier. Long before a microphone is switched on, pupils may already be engaged in rich and valuable learning. They may be discussing ideas with the group, deciding on a topic, asking what matters most, choosing how to structure a conversation, planning questions, negotiating roles, or thinking about how to make their contribution clear and meaningful. All of that is learning. All of that is part of the process. This matters because podcasting is sometimes misunderstood as though the technology is the main event. In reality, the microphone is only one small part of it. The educational value often sits in the thinking around the recording, the collaboration behind it, and the reflection it encourages along the way. The recording provides purpose and outcome, but the learning is happening all the way through. Podcasting can also support student voice in a meaningful way. At its best, student voice is not only about consultation or representation, it's about helping pupils feel that their ideas, questions, experiences, and perspectives have value. Podcasting supports that because it creates a format built around voice, not only literally, but intellectually and emotionally as well. It gives pupils a chance to form thoughts, communicate perspectives, and take ownership of expression. Another strength is that podcasting can create space for different kinds of learners. Not every pupil thrives through the same kind of classroom participation. Not every learner feels comfortable speaking off the cuff in front of a large group. But podcasting often opens up other routes into contribution. Some pupils may thrive as interviewers. Some may be strong at planning and structuring. Some may enjoy researching, writing introductions, or shaping the flow of the discussion. Others may find confidence speaking within a smaller group rather than a more exposed setting. The process gives communication a collaborative form, and in doing so, it gives value to a wider range of strengths. So when we ask about whether podcasting belongs in the classroom, perhaps the more useful question is this: can podcasting help schools support clearer communication, stronger engagement, more thoughtful reflection, and more meaningful student voice? I think the answer is yes. Not because every school needs a studio, not because every pupil needs to become a podcaster, and not because podcasting is fashionable, but because, at its best, podcasting creates a structure through which pupils can think more carefully, speak more purposefully, listen more intensively, and contribute to something that feels real. It gives learning a voice, and in a world where communication matters so much, that feels increasingly important. Thanks for listening to Podcasting in the Classroom from One Stop Podcast, hosted by Craig Burgess. In the next episode, we'll explore how podcasting can support student voice, confidence, and communication. If you're interested in how podcasting could support your school, visit onestoppodcast.com or get in touch to learn more about our podcasting in the classroom workshops.